Greetings, brothers and sisters of Abbots Cross Presbyterian Church, and welcome to another instalment of A Psalm a Day in May. This is my second take to do this, as about 5 minutes ago the washing machine chose to scare the life out of me with a spin cycle, but I've switched it off and hopefully there will be no interruptions. The wife's been sent to her bedroom and the child is locked in the living room with the dogs and Netflix. So, I'm hoping that you're all healthy and well and managing during this lockdown, taking the time to get some of those little jobs out the way, like Judith keeps telling me to, but yeah, YouTube's more interesting. Or even just to catch up on a bit of reading, which I have been doing. Reading a great book there by John MacArthur, Cosmic Chaos, wonderful. Or maybe it's just enjoying your gardens and a bit of sun and a bit of time with your immediate family. It is strange new times, being isolated from one another, and it's been a challenge for some of us, but it's a challenge that's been met and addressed quite wonderfully by our church leadership. And I'd just like to draw that to everyone's attention. Prayers go out daily for us all, and I ask everybody's continued prayer for our leadership as they navigate our church through these uncharted waters until such times as we can be reunited as a physical congregation once again in our lovely building. So today's psalm is Psalm 23, one of my favourite psalms, and I will be reading from the King James Study Version. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me by the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies, and thou anointest me head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. As we consider those words there, you know, Psalm 23 is probably one of the most familiar and recognisable psalms. You read those words out even to the secular world, and most people will recognise them. It's been sang about and read in congregations and denominations around the world for generations. In fact, it's so well known that its traditional hymnal form, that in the mid-1990s both the acclaimed rapper Coolio borrowed passages from it in his hit song Gangster's Paradise, for those old enough to remember. And I'm sure we all remember the composer Howard Goodall bringing it into popular culture by skillfully weaving it into the theme tune of the Vicar of Dibley. In that case, he used the 1872 version, not the one that we use, Jesse Seymour Irvine's recognisable tune that he cleverly used as the introduction for that TV programme, Unmistakable. And at face value, you know, Psalm 23 might appear gentle and sweet, comforting, relaxing, maybe even a bit whimsical. And in contrast to many of the other psalms, we don't see any of the lamentation or the crying or the pain or the fear. It's not a psalm of joy or celebration. It's something else entirely. See, Psalm 23 is a declaration of confidence and acknowledgement of the entity of God, of the true heart of God. Psalm 23 is David's recognition of God's promise in his life and God's place in his life. David puts into a poetic setting the essence of his relationship between God and his people, and he acknowledges the whole situation laying it bare in simple terms that make sense to him. He views it all through the lens of his own life experience, and that's how he makes sense of understanding God's promise. See, as we all know, as a young man, David was a shepherd. He fully understood the role of a shepherd. You know, you weren't just there to keep the sheep in one place. There was a massive responsibility David recognized some of these traits in the nature of God. Taking responsibility and protecting and nurturing, providing, watching and guiding, and creating boundaries for the flock. Even going to the length of putting his own life on the line for that flock whilst fighting wild bears or lions. And these are traits that I'm sure that he carried over in his role as king, as he took the nation of Israel to various battles and various situations, and as he ruled over that nation, ruling with a nurturing, protecting, providing spirit. And these are traits that he also recognised in God. So, you know, a flock of sheep in time will come to recognise and trust their shepherd. The sheep rely on him for everything, not just their daily needs, but they respond to his voice and his commands unquestionably. One of my best friends recently bought a farm. Boy I grew up with, he's not a farmy boy, he's a town boy. But he bought a farm and he's been at it now for about a year, 18 months, and he found it hard. But he recently said to me that he loves his cows and he loves his pigs, and he enjoys feeding his chickens. He said, but he just can't abide the idea of keeping sheep because they're just too much hard work. Apparently, according to him, they continuously throw themselves into harm's way. A cow will stand in the field and eat the grass and wait for the farmer to come and give it its feed or its silage. Chickens walk around in a secure pen, laying eggs. Pigs lay in the mud waiting for you to throw food at them. But sheep for some reason don't know what's good for them. They're constantly walking around looking for the next disaster, throwing themselves off mountainsides or into barbed wire fences or in front of cars, etc. Does that sound familiar? Because as we try to make our way through the world, constantly juggling the dangers of life and relationships, work, leisure, television, the media, the internet, ethics, constantly being exposed to these shiny things of life. As human beings, we're really not very good at making healthy or wise choices. You have to see how many kebabs I eat a week. We leave ourselves open to get hurt. And we leave ourselves open to suffering. And we leave ourselves open to negative and dark influence around us. On many occasions, choosing the wrong things because we choose them from here and not through the Lord. And David recognises this comparison. He sees the need for a sovereign Lord in his life, a good shepherd that will protect him not only from the enemy, but from himself. A provider that will love him, nurture him, and never leave him, but that will guide him through all of life's trials and tribulations. David contrasts the image of the gentle provider laying him down in the green pastures with the strength and might and power of God's steadfast rod, of his staff of protection with which he brings comfort in times of trouble and upheaval. That contrast is just absolutely fantastic, from the loving, gentle, caring nature of God to the fierce, strong power and protective nature of God. And David shows us the depth of his commitment in relation to the Lord, unquestionably demonstrating his confidence and his conviction to the sovereignty and divine, selfless love of God. He takes his lead from the voice of God. He makes his mistakes throughout his life. We know that. We know things that he did that he wasn't thinking of God when he did them. But ultimately, he follows his commands in the knowledge that God has his best interest at heart and that God knows better than he does. In the last two verses of Psalm 23, verse 5 and 6, the level of God's commitment and love for his people is elevated by the parallel of the Lord being transferred, not just from the shepherd, but to a willing host, and his people to an honoured guest, cherished, a guest in whom he delights and whom he wants to commune with, who he wants to provide for and protect. It's nothing that he's doing because he has to, or it's not an imposition. It's his heart's desire is to commune and protect and love and cherish his people. The Good Shepherd comes from that bountiful position of love and tenderness. He anoints his people with oil, overflowing with good and mercy forever. And that is our inheritance, is that forever connection with the God of goodness and mercy. Let's pray. Abba Father, in these difficult and uncertain times that we're now facing, help us to recognise and know that you are ever present. You are our provider, protector, and our comforter. Help us to seek out your voice of direction as you seek to guide us, love us, nurture us, and cherish us. As you protect us from the world and also from ourselves. Lord, just keep everything at bay that would do us harm. Father, still our hearts and minds at this time and help us to focus on you and your divine plan for us. Give us your peace and understanding. Grant us patience as we wait out the lockdown with our families. Abba Father, I pray that you'll maintain the solidarity of Abbots Cross Church, that you will soon unite us and build us up to be the mighty army of men and women of God, making our way in this community in the extension of your kingdom. Abba Father, we just ask all of these things in the precious name of your Son, Jesus Christ, who died for us. Amen.